Good afternoon and welcome to Trade Talks. I'm your host, Jill Malandrino, Global Markets Reporter at Nasdaq. We've been coming to you live throughout the day inside ETFs in Hollywood, Florida. We're going to wrap up the day, have a conversation about the Canadian ETF market with Stephen Hawkins. He's a co-CEO of Horizons ETF Canada. Thank you very much for joining us.
Jill, thank you very much for having me.
At booth 207. So tell us about the Canadian marketplace and how does the growth compare to that in the U.S.?
The Canadian ETF marketplace has been growing phenomenally. You know, Canada was the first to launch ETFs worldwide. So SPY thinks it was the best at 25 years, but XIU is longer at 27 years. But the Canadian ETF marketplace is really still young, even though it's been around for a little bit longer on a maturity level of adoption perspective. So on an overall basis, around 10% of the overall ETF marketplace in the US. We're about 150 billion of assets under management in ETFs, whereas the U.S. marketplace is 4 trillion. So
right, but that means there's a lot of opportunity, right?
It's significant amounts of opportunity.
Right. And speaking of that, what were some of the largest successes in the Canadian market?
So Canada's a little bit differently because of our regulations are a little bit more forward thinking from that perspective. So actively managed and thematic ETFs had fantastic years in 2017 in Canada. The world's first marijuana ETF got launched last year. We brought in about 850 million of assets into that ETF this year. So it's just a different marketplace, but a lot of that is regulatory driven.
So is that one of the key differences between the U.S. marketplace and Canadian marketplace? Is certainly the regulatory environment.
Absolutely. I mean, our regulators generally, we believe, are a little bit more forward thinking, and they actually work with us as asset managers to bring new product to marketplace. They want to see the marketplace different. We're governed by very similar rules to mutual funds from a disclosure perspective and things like that. So we've had non-transparent active ETFs in Canada since 2008. So they don't even exist in the US yet. Right. We think it might happen. Every year I come to this conference and it might happen this year, but it still hasn't happened. So, but in Canada, 7 years later, we already have, or 8 years later, we've had actively managed non-transparent ETFs for a long time.
So where do you see the Canadian ETF market going for 2018 and beyond?
Just more and more asset managers coming into the space. We've seen the number of ETF providers double in the past 2 years. We've seen last year there was 170 ETF launches in Canada. We're going to see something similar this year. We're going to see probably 10 new large asset management companies come to the Canadian ETF place. We're going to see over 150 ETF launches probably in 2018. But I think we're going to see a significant amount of those into the actively managed space as well as thematic space. So those are really where we see the growth. The large benchmark passive index products are really overdone. We're going to see fee compression, but new products, active management, maybe some multi-factor stuff, and thematics.
Do you think Canada will continue to outpace the U.S. in terms of innovation?
A lot of that is regulatory driven. We have been first to market in many different product ideas and types of ETFs over the U.S. But I think the SEC will wake up at some point in time. They obviously haven't woken up about Bitcoin, but cryptocurrency is going to happen in Canada well before it happens in the U.S. So we're going to have some fun in Canada. We're going to bring lots of new innovative products to market, and we're going to continue to dominate the U.S. from interesting thematic types of products.
We'll have to see where we are in 2019 when we meet up again.
Yes, we will.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Steve, for joining us. And traders, thank you for joining me. I'm Jill Malandrino, Global Markets Reporter at Nasdaq.